Greetings. We're very amped for today's Equity Guru Investor Roundtable. Very, very amped. We're talking about amped on the Canadian exchange. I'm totally amped. Rob, that's Galen down there in the basement. What are you making today, Galen?
Chicken burgers.
Chicken burgers. Chris Perry upstairs in the far corner, the guru himself, waiting for a chicken burger. And Vishal is in his gold mine back there, just living large. We'll go to the pool after this for high tea. We're talking about amped on the Canadian exchange. They're based in Vancouver, and our pal Anthony Brown, they are not a client of Equity Guru, although we have talked about them in the past and we have communicated with them in the past.
And we're doing some stock.
What's that? And we're doing
some stock.
I knew there was another connection, and Chris will talk about them first.
Well, amped. Like anyone who's been following me for a couple of years knows that I've been involved with this company for, I don't know, 3 years now. So I've also had a stake in them for pretty much that time. Amped, in a nutshell, is a company that provides high-performance computing for industries like video rendering, like AI, like virtual movie production, which is the thing where the traditional movie studio where you use carpenters to make sets is gone. You now have gigantic LED screens and video game engines that create worlds that the actors actually act in front of. Whole new thing going on in Hollywood that people aren't yet really aware of. But in Vancouver, Amped is connected to a group that has set up one of these giant virtual movie studios, and it is booked for time eternal. They've also got into the business of a company called the Departure Lounge, which is a sort of a VR tech, allows volumetric capture, which means, using a bunch of VR cameras to film something from every angle so that somebody in VR can actually explore the space. A lot of jargon, but what it comes down to is, if you've ever seen the movie Ready Player One, the world where we all live in a virtual metaverse, which Mr. Zuckerberg is trying to corner the market on, can only happen if the internet is upgraded. And these guys are part of that internet upgrade, where instead of it just being like, I send a ping to Netflix and it sends me a video one way, where you could actually have video games going both ways. You could have the Netflix of video games. There's a whole bunch of stuff here. Here's the deal. All the promise is really knocked on the head by two things. One, every news release these guys put out is written for people who are in the technology industry. They understand all the terminology. They understand what it means. They're not buying stock. People who buy stock don't understand the news releases. So there's a real gap in the understanding part of things. Maybe they could use a company that helps tell stories. But I digress. The other thing that really damages them is they have one investor who got in big in the company last year. His name rhymes with Schmeldon Schminwintosh, and he's been blowing stock out for the last 6 months. So there's no point in actually trying to raise the stock when somebody bigger than you is just taking every opportunity to cash out. So Amped is in a really weird spot. I love them. I got a chunk of them. I want to promote them. I want to tell people about them. They're going to be big, but is now the moment. Now, they do have a hefty cash load. They're not profitable, but they're not missing break even by much. And with every passing quarter, their sales increase. They've got a lot of projects that I think when they mature will be big money makers. But right now they're in that weird spot where there's stuff to talk about, but no one really understands it. There's people moving their big money out of it because they've got something else they want to get into. It's all swirly whirly. I'm not getting out because I know the people. I know what they're sitting on. I know what they're aiming to do.
Beautiful. Galen, you are up.
As Chris said, we're in the midst of a transformation in terms of the internet and computer networks in general. It used to be where it was a one-way situation. You'd make a request, you were fed a file, or a program would feed you information. And it was, that began to be two-way, but it was all very slow because you're carrying from one point, you might be in Vancouver, and the place that's actually doing the computing is somewhere in Atlanta, Georgia. So you're having that lag time, hopping from network to network, coming back to you. And if you're in a system that needs your response right away, quickly, as in with film production or content creation, it just doesn't work for you, or it makes the process onerous.
Or it's expensive.
Or very expensive because they're flying disks of data or banks of data back and forth in order so you can actually work on it in real time. So that's a huge cost. What AMPD is doing is at the forefront of is the high performance computing solutions in terms of edge computing, meaning what they're doing is they're bringing the computing to your door or making it so it doesn't necessarily matter where you are in order to take care or take advantage of the resources available and the data available. Their most recent deal with Hammerspace sort of takes advantage of that idea of making data sort of omnipresent, and you don't necessarily have to worry where it is, and you can use it and manipulate it in the terms of content creation without, you know, having to have stuff shipped back and forth. So this is where everything is heading. Now, that is an advantage for the company and also a disadvantage to a certain extent because they are looking for mainstream adopting of what they're doing right now. And because, as Chris said, the press releases sound a little esoteric to your average Joe, it's going to take a while for people to actually latch onto this. People that are not in content creation, who are not doing film production right now. This is the disconnect that we have with this company. However, it does have the bones of a good idea. It does have the bones and structure of a good value proposition. They have things in place. This isn't vaporware. They're already doing deals that are generating revenue, so that's not like they're waiting for their ship to come in. They're busily growing their business. But as I said before, because it's in a space where people just don't really understand yet, because they're getting suckered by Zuckerberg, who says he's meta now. It's basically Nortel Networks trying to get in on a new thing. So, you know, it won't be Zuckerberg, it won't be Meta. It'll be a whole new beast, all of its own making. And AMPD will be the backbone of this transition. Right? It won't be the only backbone, but it'll be one of the formative players creating this. The fellow that's in charge over there is not just a guy that's turning dollars and stuff and is an accountant. He actually understands the tech, and he's huge into the actual development of the industry, is known across the space, and is asked to be an expert on panels that are discussing edge computing, high performance solutions. So this is a company that knows where it's at, knows what it needs to do, and can actually provide those services. If they had a better IR solution, that would be wonderful. That would help them tremendously. Hey, we're right here. So, you know, this would be something they could take a look at in the future, but I like the company. Now, as Chris said, markets are getting the crap kicked out of them right now, and they have a dip shit of a investor who is unloading and causing external pressures on the stock price that don't make it really attractive at this point in time, because we don't know when he's going to stop messing with share price in order to line his own pockets. So, you know, that's the one drawback there, but it's a good proposition in the long run.
We're going to come back around and find out how much you're going to spend on it in a second, but we're going to bang out some charts.
Yeah, so just as both Chris and Galen mentioned here, the stock is taking a bit of a hit. I remember we were talking about the stock when it was close to 50 cents there. But hey, you know, interesting discussion with the whole metaverse stuff, because maybe this is one of those under the radar metaverse plays that the market, you know, needs to hear about. One thing I like about the chart I've just noticed here is just the way it adheres to these trend lines and trend line breakouts. So we've talked about these breakouts in the past. So I believe this is the one that we've talked about most recently on the bullish side of things when we broke out back in summer of 2021. But the chart, you know, it adheres to these trend line breakdowns and breakouts quite nicely. So there is a potential, you know, that we will see a reversal on the stock. But basically what I'm looking for as a chartist here is to reclaim the 17.5 cent zone, which is not just a resistance zone or a price ceiling, which used to be a price floor, but it also lines up with the downtrend technical or trend line that I've just drawn out. Just because, you know, the stock, it adheres to these trend lines quite nicely, and when it breaks it, it makes a nice jump higher, or, you know, when it breaks down, it makes a nice or a pretty big drop lower. So I think the 17.5 cent zone is going to be a crucial target or crucial reversal inflection point. The stock here could be heading a bit lower, though, to the 10-cent support. I do see some support maybe exactly here at 12.5 cents, where we did actually bounce up today. We did see some buyers as as you can see by this large wick here. If we take a look at today's volume, actually 482,605 shares. So the stock does see quite decent volume on a day-to-day basis, down 6.9%, however, still on that drop. But yeah, we're approaching a support zone here around 10 cents, which would basically be pretty much the near all-time record lows there. And I think, if there is that stock market weakness, but if we do know there's a big whale also getting rid of shares, I think when we get to this 10-cent zone, or if we flip around 17.5 cents, I think that might be a nice signal to indicate that selling pressure is now over. But yeah, those are the two levels I'd be watching. Watch for a reversal here back above 17.5 cents, or if we do drift a bit lower, wait for some sort of range or something to set up at 10 cents, just to indicate that all this selling pressure has exhausted.
So does that mean, Chris, you're waiting for a better price, or you're going to add to your stock with the 75 report part of it now?
I love these guys as guys, right? Like these guys are friends. I admire them as technological geniuses. They're doing what they said they were going to do. The struggle is in the connection to the market, and the markets don't get it. They had a bit of a run when Zuckerberg said he was changing Facebook to a metaverse company. They haven't been able to explain why that's good for them in a way that's stuck. If they had, maybe the big fish would have stuck around a little bit longer. But, this is a company that has always been hurt by investors getting out at the wrong time after telling them that they're strong hands. And quite frankly, as long as that's continuing, it's hard to tell people to buy the stock. Now, there's a difference between buying the stock and not selling the stock. Like I read this price, it's definitely value for me. It's about a $20 million market cap. I think they've got enough money coming in, enough connections, enough partnerships, and they're in a hot space that it should be a lot more. But these deals take time, and the market doesn't have time. And the market points to its watch and says, but, why not now? So hard to put my cash money in while the market's dropping, and I'm trying to preserve cash. But I'd be watching this every single damn day. If it hits 10 cents, really struggle not to buy in at that point. I don't see them as a company that's going to run out of money anytime soon. They're certainly not going to be doing less revenues next year than they are this year. It's a long-term wait and see. And I think that people who are buying it at this price are not going to be disappointed. They might be in the short term. You might see the same big fish dumping more stock and moving on to something else that they can vulture up. But, for mine, check it every day, see where it's at. And if it's low enough, take that damn weekend stock from the weekends and be the strong guy who's still here in 2 years.
All right.
So zero?
Galen? That's a zero, right?
Zero right now, but 7.5 sitting there lingering, waiting.
Galen, are you going to wait?
Good company, great people at the helm. Wish they could tell their story a little bit better because that would connect them more with their investors. Again, we're right here. Also, the problem with this is, what Chris said, is the markets. It's just not friendly for investment in something as esoteric as this, if you could say that. And also the investor who is just lining his pockets by dumping shares, we don't know where it's going to be. Now, honestly, as Chris said, I will agree with him. If it hits 10 cents a share, that's a nice sweet spot for this company to be. It's got $4 million in the bank. It's doing deals. It's actually getting close to breaking even in terms of what it's doing. And I can only see an upside in terms of how business is going to go over the next while as our internet and our metaverse evolves. Because these guys are providing the backbone for it. They're not the flashy service providers. They don't need that game. They're providing what is going to make it happen. Right? So this is agnostic. We don't have to worry about them playing pretty with people. This is just making it happen. So you know what? I like that kind of stuff.
Zero.
At this point, yeah, I'm going to go zero. But if it were to hit the 10 cent, I'd probably drop to 75 too.
Yeah, I like the 10 cents. Vishal, unfortunately, you have about 30 seconds.
Yeah, I echo the same thing. Just what I said on the technicals, wait for that 10-cent support zone, or alternatively, if we do see a nice bid and we get past 17.5 cents, that would indicate that the downtrend here is over. And, we've talked about these downtrends. It's like catching a falling knife. So I just prefer to wait for some signs of exhaustion of selling or that reversal break. So nothing right now, but either wait and observe at 10 cents, or if we do reverse and break above 17 and a half.
I'm going to be watching them every day, as the guru has instructed, because this is worth watching. For Chris and for Galen and for Michelle, I'm Rob. Please don't take what we say as gold or as gospel. We can't promise you anything. Past performance does not guarantee future results. Do your own homework. And we'll check you out on the next Equity Guru Investor Roundtable.